day and I was watching it, and the scene where the little boy gets abducted.
Yeah.
And those little floor grates in his house, you see the screws coming up.
Yeah.
Because I lived in a double wide trailer, we had those. It scared me. Like I was very scared.
It's a creepy scene.
It is a very creepy scene and kind of a pointless scene.
Why? What's
like? Why do they abduct them? Because they give him right back at the end.
I don't know why do they abduct anybody? I don't really get it either.
But like,
just collecting people, just want to hang out. Like,
I'm trying to remember because I've watched the movie since then, and the whole abduction thing. They kind of like give everyone back when Dreyfus decides that he's going to go with them. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's a weird movie.
Great movie though. It is. I love it because it really is like it's not full Spielberg yet, right? There's still a little bit of a 70s like cinema touch to it, where it's like they're still like experimenting with stuff and not just like kind of playing it safe. It's not saccharine.
Right. It's not. We're definitely not dealing with Ready Player One Spielberg, which I've not yet seen, by the way. I do want to see it. I'm just so I'm curious. I'm just so curious.
Best way I could describe Ready Player One, Chuck, is like it's if your parents took you to Disney World, but your parents, your in your case, your mom is the same age she is now, and you are the same age you are now. Like that's what Ready Player One is like. It's like your parent taking you to Disney World as an adult.
I would love that.
But it's like, but they that's if you love it, you're not picking up what I'm trying to say.
No, I think what you're
okay. But like when you and your mom go to Israel, you're just going as you and your mom. I mean, like if your parents still thought she was your parent, you know what I mean? Like your parent.
I know what you mean. Like
no, Chuck, we can't get the Dole Whip. No, we can't do.
Yeah. Introducing you to Disney.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you've got to go. We're going to go on Space Mountain, and
yeah.
Remember
Back to the Future? We got the DeLorean here. Wow,
yeah, I mean,
really?
I know it's. I know it's like Member Berries, the movie.
Yeah, kind of. Sort of.
I know that it also deals with things like the Iron Giant, which is a movie I've never seen.
It is kind of weird watching Iron Giant just like cap fools, like a very anti-gun movie. But there's a scene that's like a nod to The Shining that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I've read online that everyone was it for the Dr. Sleep trailer, and I watched it the other day. It says one of the comments on Birth Movie's death was awesome. They're making a sequel to Ready Player One, and people mentioned that was probably the best scene in the movie.
It is the best scene in the movie, and it's the whole reason why I wanted to see it in theaters, because I heard that they were going to do like an ode to The Shining,
right? And that and it's like when are you going to get to see The Shining in theaters?
Yeah, exactly. But then like I actually watched it the other day on YouTube, and it's nothing spectacular. It really isn't anything great. It's just like, unless you see it like on a huge screen, it's really impressive how they recreate it. And it's like, you know, if you love The Shining, which I do, it's like, ooh, I'm home. You know, like get to take a break from this shit movie to go back to the Overlook.
Let's just welcome to Masters of Divinity. We're just talking. I kind of want to talk about Dr. Sleep.
You do? Okay.
The trailer, just because I you know, we've talked about my complicated feelings on horror movies.
Yeah.
On this podcast, and yet you point out the fact that like two of my favorite horror movies, probably even just two of my favorite movies. I don't know about favorite movies, but up there are Alien and The Shining. Like I enjoy both of those movies. Historically, two of the most scary movies like ever made.
You also like Halloween and Scream.
I do like Halloween and Scream, yes. So I do have some. Yeah. Anyway, I when I watched this trailer for Dr. Sleep, I'm very intrigued is one word, but it's also the fact that they're making it as a sequel to Kubrick's Shining, not just King's novel.
Yeah.
Is a bold, risky move.
No, that's not a bold move. You want to know what a bold move would have been? If it was a sequel to the miniseries. The Shining.
Okay, fair.
Miniseries.
Oh yeah, fair. That was terrible. Yeah, I watched that. It was not good.
It's horrendous. It's awful. And the fact that it's a miniseries makes it worse because you have to sit through so much of it.
Well, yeah, what was it with like all these King adaptations being miniseries? Like it.
And I think they just kind of think they're probably fully capturing the book by being so.
Yeah.
Long,
do you remember that there was like a
bad?
But do you remember that like there were so many Langoliers?
Langoliers, baby. Yes.
What was the other? There was
Langoliers, Tommy Knockers, The Stand.
Tommy Knockers. Thank you.
There's The Stand, which is actually
yes.
People really love that miniseries, the one that came out in 1996.
Yeah, I just remember they were like all these like weird like mid-season like things.
Yeah.
It came out when I was young. What is it? 86? Is that when did it come out as a miniseries?
Wasn't it like 1990?
Was it 90? It might have been 90. Yeah. So I was like in second grade.
Yeah.
When that came out, and I can remember like some of my friends watched it and like talking about, oh, you got to watch it. I managed to catch like the second half of the second part.
Yeah, way scarier when you're a kid, I'll say.
Yeah, but it was such a like taboo thing, right? Like it was weird. It was like it's on TV, and I don't know. And Tim Curry is creepy. Not as creepy as who plays Pennywise.
Skarsgårds.
I know. I was gonna say Stellan, but it's not Stellan. Anyway,
is it Tom Skarsgård? Is it
Tom? I don't know. Tom Skerritt. Anyway.
Tom Skerritt as Pennywise.
But Tom Green is Pennywise. I just keep going where it turns into Seth Green as Pennywise. But
Tom Servo as Pennywise.
I watched that movie. But no, so anyway, I think I'm very intrigued by Dr. Sleep.
Yeah,
I've never read the book, so I don't know the plot all that much. I've kind of figured out from comments and stuff what it's about. But the idea, like, I'm a sucker. I'm always a sucker for revisiting old things, not like in just a nostalgia way, but like in Jurassic World when they go back to when the kids wind up in the original visitors center.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff. And I think it all stems back to the first time I played Super Metroid, where you take the elevator down and you realize and you start going backwards through the last like through Turian and all that from the first game. Mm-hmm. And it's all destroyed and decrepit like that. You get to see like what it's like after the thing ended. And like I said, I'm just a sucker for that. And so in the trailer where they show Danny walking around in like the ruins of the Overlook.
Yeah.
And, 40 years on, they haven't cleaned it up or done anything to it. But I will see it just for that, just because I'm a sucker for like, it may have no bearing on the plot or anything. It's complete nostalgia crap, I guess, but I'm just, like I said, I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I didn't really follow up much of the news, so I didn't really know that it was actually going to be a sequel to the original movie. I think it that at least has me pretty interested, Wish Matt's not here, by the way, unfortunately. He had a last minute thing. He has actually read Dr. Sleep, so it would have been kind of interesting to get his perspective. But I remember him saying that it's not very good.
Yeah, a lot of people I've heard said it's not very good. But for the movie to draw from Kubrick, I mean, because it's what I like about it is this: we have this treatment that Kubrick is sort of like sacred, which I mean, in a way, he is, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it creates a space where there can never be another Kubrick or anyone that I don't like that idea of just making him like he's untouchable.
And it's not like it's the first time they've attempted a sequel to one of his films. There's 2010,
right? But very different. Well,
it's a different movie, but it wasn't afraid to be different. It's actually a pretty good movie in its own right.
Yeah, I like 2010.
The only thing that's wrong about it is that it's not like 2001.
Right.
It's not, but it's still like a pretty good sci-fi flick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I saw 2010 before I ever saw 2001.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It was one of those things where I caught it on TV, and I really liked the future setting, and it was around the time that that Sequest was on TV, and
Nice.
and I, being a longtime Jaws fan, there's another kind of horror movie that I love. Is anything with Roy Scheider, I'll watch it. And so what I love about 2010, just as an aside, is that his apartment in the movie, in the beginning, he has like an indoor aquarium with a dolphin in it. So it's kind of like Sequest, with the dolphin. But I think that's what I thought it was initially. Like, is this something like Sequest related? And then I realized what it was. You go check out the TV guide and find out, oh, it's 2010, Space Odyssey.
Dude, can we just, like, quick aside, Roy Scheider.
Mm-hmm. God's gift to humanity. Yes.
A real man.
Yeah. White Light, or Blue Thunder himself. Yes.
Blue Thunder. French Connection. Just so good. And his Jaws was Brody. Like, I mean, probably everyone thinks like Harrison Ford is like the ultimate man for like our generation. You know what I mean? The ultimate action hero. But like, I don't know, man. I think Roy Scheider could have beat the hell out of Harrison Ford. Like,
yeah, I feel like Roy Scheider is one of these. It's easy to sleep on him.
Yeah, because he's so subtle, right? He's so subtle. Like,
yeah, but he's like, he's confident enough that he doesn't have to be up front and center, right?
Yeah.
When you kind of have to put yourself front and center, there's an insecurity you're kind of covering for, right?
Yeah, he's got that sort of old school coolness about him, where he's like, he's quiet. He's he's the guy in the shadow smoking the cigarette. Just like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, even though like that's not his character at all.
No. This is what I think about it. I just think I don't know. I love the guy. I love his act. I love his work, and I haven't seen all of it. Like I really want to watch this movie called Sorcerer that's starring him. Sorcerer is it's a remake of this movie called Wages of Fear, which is about these truckers who are hired to transport nitrous glycerin in South America, and it's really suspenseful. It's about like whether or not like the nitrous glycerin will explode. Did you ever see the movie The Vertical Limit?
Yes.
It's like that, but with trucks.
Okay.
And Roy Scheider's in it. He plays the main character, and it's directed by William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist. And it's actually supposed to be really, really good. It has a score by Tangerine Dream. And it's actually supposed to be really good, but the reason why it got so overshadowed is because its release date was the same day as Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
So like very recently they had like kind of a re-releasing on Blu-ray. That was like a big deal to try to like kind of put it back in the public consciousness, because Star Wars is, well, it's not over, but it's like it's still yeah. A lot of the like film critics and stuff I follow online talk a lot about it and talk a lot about the score. Apparently the score is available on vinyl and stuff. I listened to it. It's actually really good.
Well, it's also another actor to me who's a very good masculine actor that we don't pay as much attention to, I think, is Sam Neill.
Oh yeah, dude.
Alan.
Alan.
I love that. By the way, I love that on Honest trailers.
Yeah.
Every time they get a chance to do anything with Jurassic Park, they put a clip of the raptors hanging out, and it's always funny. It's one of those things that the more I see it, the funnier it gets.
Alan, can I say something? When
can Jurassic Park, can we put in the blue screen behind Alan?
Or maybe it's over here.
Yeah, it'd be more on yeah.
When Jurassic Park 3 was coming out, someone had leaked plot details. And they were talking about like apparently someone had watched it, and they went on the internet and like leaked everything they saw. And he mentioned that part where there's a talking velociraptor. And I was like, nah, I don't believe this. 1 second. I threw the whole thing out. Like, I was like, that's not true. They would never do that. And it happened. And when that happened, I was like, oh no, this is not going to be a good movie.
It's short, and it's just sort of straightforward. Like it's just
it's a little quickie through the jungle.
Better than Fallen Kingdom, though.
Yeah, I think they got the raptors right. The raptors are pretty cool in that movie.
Yeah, you're talking about in Jurassic Park 3?
Yeah,
and it was cool seeing the Spinosaurus.
And the pterodactyls are pretty cool, or pteranodons, I guess.
Yeah,
but like that's it though, right? It's just a bunch of set pieces. Like it's nothing.
Right.
Not saying nothing.
Yep.
There's no Jeff Goldblum. You just get to watch Sam Neill run from dinosaurs again.
Yeah, and for some reason, I feel like in my head, I have remembered for years that the guy who does the paragliding.
Oh yeah. What's his name? I know his name. Nicholas Trivolo.
Whatever. For years in my head thought it was Vince Vaughn.
No,
to this day, I think of him in it, but Vince Vaughn is in Lost World. Yeah. So I'm not completely crazy.
That guy in Jurassic Park 3, Nicholas Trivolio, he plays Pollux Troy in Face Off, Castor Troy's brother.
Yes.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Face Off, the wonderful Face Off.
It's been a long time since I've seen Face Off. The best thing about Face Off is the How Did This Get Made about Face Off.
Oh, it's good, but I actually think Con Air is better.
Oh, Con Air is the best one. To be fair, when any of the ones where they have what's his face on with them, the guy from New Girl.
Is he the guy that was in Jurassic World?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I forget his name.
Pretty much anytime he's on any of their episodes, he's on the one with I think it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay,
which is also a really good episode of that show. But that show is what made me fall in love with Jason Mantzoukas, and then I finally got around watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and fell in love with Mantzoukas all over again.
He's also really funny and The Good Place.
I need to see that show.
You'd like it. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Yeah, I feel like that's a show we need to talk about. On
Heaven and Hell, right? Just like we also need to talk about Good Omens.
Oh, I just finished Good Omens.
Yeah, I need to watch it. One of my former parishioners was telling me it's very good.
So, but anyway, back to Sam Neill. Can we get back to Sam Neill?
Alan.
He was also in the Taika Waititi movie that came out a few years ago, The Wilder People or whatever.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that.
Me neither. And I feel like I probably should because Taika Waititi is a great director and Sam Neill is amazing. What else has Sam Neill been in? That's
Event Horizon.
Yeah, people love that Event Horizon.
I've never seen it. I've been told it's I've been told it's like one of the scariest movies ever. Or just like,
I feel like the hype around Event Horizon is more nostalgic than anything.
Okay. My buddy who watched when it was brand new was the one who's telling me all that.
It would probably be really scary for you, Chuck. Yeah,
probably. Yeah. I think I watched some of it, but
it's made by the guy who made Mortal Kombat and the Resident Evil.
Okay.
So.
Paul Thomas Anderson, or not Paul. The other one. The other.
Event Horizon, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
What's that guy's name? The guy.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, that's right. It was a Paul Anderson. Actually, I'm pretty sure when I first saw the Resident Evil movies, I was like, wait, hold on. There's no way this is the same guy as Magnolia. Like, there's just no way. Also as an aside, I enjoy the Resident Evil movies.
You and Matt, apparently. Matt loves them.
They're terrible, but I find them very fun.
They are it's like a history. It's, you know what? If you watch the first Resident Evil all the way to whatever the most recent one was, it's kind of like watching the history of bad action cinema.
Yeah, probably. I've not seen the. I've only seen like the first three. I think I didn't see what there's like five of them, right? I haven't seen the others
because they all sort of borrow tropes from other action movies that did better around the time they came out.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it's fun. It's a fun progression to watch.
Yeah. I mean, and without a doubt, the first one's the best one.
It's kind of like watching the classic Bond movies because they started kind of like adhering to the like what genres are popular at the time they were coming out, right?
Yeah. Also, Sam Neill is also in The Tudors, which my wife watches frequently.
Is he?
He plays Cardinal. I can't remember. He's a cardinal, and around the Reformation, the English Reformation period. So it doesn't work out too well for him.
Yeah.
But Cardinal Wolsey, that's it. Cardinal Wolsey. He's good in it. I mean, he's pretty much only in like the first season, parts of the second season. But it's Sam Neill. It's just like anything with Sam Neill, I'll watch. There's a rumor that the third Jurassic World movie is going to have him in it, as well as they're trying to get Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum.
You know what? Bring in Vince Vaughn. Let's bring back Vince Vaughn while we're at it.
I want
Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore, and
look. Just give me
Pollux Troy could come too.
Just give me Timmy and Lex. Why
Tim and Lex?
Why haven't Timmy and Lex been in these?
Listen, movies? You know what, Chuck? If they made this like the Avengers of Jurassic Park movies, I will go see it opening night, front and center. How great would that be?
It'd be great. I just don't know because sort of the thing is that the dinosaurs are kind of the stars,
yeah,
and they're kind of all dead now, except for like the ones that got off the island.
You clone them. They're cloned.
That's true. I just, you've talked in the past about how Ghostbusters 2 is evidence that sequels like don't work or whatever.
Some of it just won't work with sequels. Like
right, and I feel like Jurassic Park is one of those.
No, I agree. Yeah,
it's unless you go like balls out crazy with it.
Yeah,
you know, I like what I don't understand is for 5 movies now, 5 Jurassic Park related movies, there has been this through line. You mostly see it in Lost World and following. So 4 Jurassic Park movies, 4 of them, they have since the 90s, they have been talking about using dinosaurs as weapons.
Yeah.
Give me that movie. Fish or cut bait. Come on. Like, I want to see the movie that opens with like a terrorist network holed up in like caves or some complex, and a raptor equipped with like guns and a camera on its head is running through tunnels, just mauling insurgents. Like, give me close quarters, just terrifying. Like, show me that this is an idea that's actually a workable idea, and that an InGen are bad guys, and now it becomes like, I don't know. Even go like to the Resident Evil level. InGen has sort of taken over the government, and it's kind of like the Umbrella Corporation is taken over, and they're just sort of they're using dinosaurs to keep people under the thumb of oppression, and it becomes a rebellion against this power system that's using dinosaurs to control the world. Give me the Hunger Games with dinosaurs. I mean, just go.
Are you also kind of hoping for the John Sayles Jurassic Park 4 script where they merged the spliced human dinosaur DNA?
No, I've never thought that adapting Cadillacs and dinosaurs would be a good idea.
The Dinosaurs movie, you know,
oh,
like
gosh. I'm actually I kind of think I've always kind of thought it was a dumb idea. I mean, I would see it just because I would like to see, like, I'd stream it on Netflix just to see how crazy it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I would want to actually see that with the franchise. Like, I just don't feel like that's Jurassic Park. But I don't know. Like I said, if you've called it Jurassic World, you've ended with Jeff Goldblum saying, "Welcome to Jurassic World." Make it Jurassic World. The world is like, or I said, here's the only sequel idea to Jurassic Park that I ever thought worked. There's two that I think would work. The first is there was a comic. IDW had the Jurassic Park franchise, and they were doing comics years ago. And they had this one comic where basically the mob had gained control of Isla Sorna.
Okay.
And there was no park. It was just completely wild. The dinosaurs were loose, and it was sort of kept quiet. Nobody ever really learned about the island or whatever. But what they would do is like they would capture, if they caught like informants or whatever, they would just dump them on the island. And so making it a movie about like one or two people surviving just this complete nightmare scenario is, I think, part of what you do with it. The other idea would be the sequel. It's similar kind of idea, but it turns out, and you could even merge this idea, but basically it's kind of like, I guess, Predators, in that you've got people on this island and they encounter Muldoon has survived his encounter with the clever girl, and he is just this feral, like, dude who's just been surviving for years. On the island and making do, and he's just grizzled and a little bit crazy.
He's like Kurtz in Heart of Darkness.
Yes.
He's he's amassed a following of Jurassic Park employees who stayed behind.
Yeah, I would watch that movie.
It's like Apocalypse Now, but with dinosaurs.
And you know what? Even let him. He trained the raptors.
Yeah,
he managed to train some raptors and go that route. Like you went with Chris Pratt. He managed to train some raptors, so he's got like his little like feral like community of raptors.
Well, who's been hired to take him out?
I don't know if anyone's hired. No one's taking him out. I think it's a situation people encounter him.
Okay.
Like you've got
Tim and Lex.
Yeah, you've got a. Oh, there we go. Or it turns out Hammond has learned that there were employees that survived.
Yeah.
And that they need to go back. And then you could also play off the tease that you got with the Barbasol can that got like covered in mud. Like you've already brought dinosaurs back from using mutant frog DNA and just mumbo jumbo science. So why not have it where like the mud and that Barbasol can sort of gestated a mutant like hybrid dinosaur that's just on the loose?
I'm for it.
Huh?
I'm for it.
See?
I want a Heart of Darkness Jurassic Park movie.
I have to admit, I kind of have to admit, part of the reason I'm thinking about Jurassic Park is the fact that as I sent a photo to JP before I left to come to the office today, I realized I'm kind of dressed like John Hammond right now. Yeah. And I'll show, here, I'm Guayabera. Linen pants.
Spared no expense.
I have a Panama hat I wear. I just need a cane.
Yeah. I've actually been thinking a lot about James Cameron lately.
Oh, good. So have I, because I just went to Pandora again.
You did? And what number is this? What number is Pandora? You going to Pandora?
I've been to Pandora. Well, let's see. I've ridden Flight of Passage probably about 20 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've done the math. Yeah,
I've ridden it probably about 20 times. I'm saying, oh, wow, but that's probably nothing compared to how many times I've ridden like Jaws and Back to the Future before they were
yeah.
canceled.
By the way, let me talk about that real quick, because I was just in Orlando at Disney. Ken and I were talking about this, and I was telling her, I don't know that I could ever go back to Universal Studios.
Why not?
Because everything that, to me, that makes Universal's gone. I don't care about anything they have there right now.
Harry Potter stuff is really cool.
Okay.
It's really cool.
I'm sure it is.
No, it's Chuck. You can like get a wand. You can like go up spots and you do this. You obviously. Well, I was gonna say you obviously don't spend a lot of time with like hardcore Potter fans, but I would imagine you probably see more of them than I do. Not really.
I'm kind of really over that franchise. It's like they were good movies, probably good books. I never read the books, and just I don't know. I mean, Okay, I'm sure it's awesome. I'm sure it's immersive. It's a cool world, and the fact that they pulled it off to make it very immersive and all that, I'm sure is awesome. And I've heard that it's like the closest that Universal's ever gotten to Disney in level of immersion and all of that. And that's okay. That's cool. I'm fine with that. By the way, while I was in Orlando, they opened the new Hagrid's roller coaster.
Yeah,
there was the line 16 minutes after the park opened. JP, 600 minutes.
What?
People waited.
Wow.
They had to stop letting people into the line because there was it was a mathematical impossibility after that anyone would be able to ride the ride. 10 hours. People stood in line for 10 hours to ride the ride.
You could read a Harry Potter book in that time.
Yeah. 10 hours in line for a ride. I don't think anything at Galaxy's Edge has been like that.
No, I think the longest lines have been for the bar.
Well, I mean, it's a cantina.
Yeah, everyone wants to go to the cantina. I have to say, I really want to go to Pandora. I really want to visit it, but like I need to go there before I go to Galaxy's Edge, because I feel like if I go to Galaxy's Edge first and then I do Pandora, I'm not gonna like it as much.
Why?
I don't know, man. I just think I feel like if I go to Star Wars Land, there will be no other land.
Probably. I will say that the stuff that I've read from people who've gone to Galaxy's Edge in California, it actually sounds kind of disappointing.
Well, I think it's not. It's just rolling out, right? Like,
yeah, but I think, I mean, I don't know. I would not go for at least. I probably won't go for like a while. Like I'm fine with waiting a year or two to go because it's going to be insane. And I don't know if you know this or not, JP, but Star Wars fans have become really insufferable and kind of dangerous, and I kind of want to like avoid them.
You think they can afford to go to a place like Disney World? Come on,
dude. You don't go as much as I do.
No?
These people are nuts.
Really?
There are people that's their entire life is like Star Wars. Like that's what they save their money for. So they go to Hollywood studios so they can stand and watch the First Order march down like Sunset Boulevard or whatever they do there.
Oh, really? That's kind of weird. Wow.
Like, there are hardcore JP, Disney had to issue a special reminder when Galaxy's Edge opened that you could not show up in cosplay.
Yeah.
And members of the what is it, the 19th or whatever, the 19th Brigade,
the 501st.
The 501st. They were apparently very upset that they weren't allowed to show up in Stormtrooper costume. I mean, this is like a long-standing policy Disney's already had about dressing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, there are people that like that's.
Yeah, I just remember like when I was living in Orlando, the one thing I learned about like going to like theme park openings, it was always just a little bit disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everything was 100% yet.
Right.
Even though like, I mean, you had your soft openings, which like, of course it's not going to be 100%. You just went because you wanted to go, whatever. But even like the grand opening, whether it's a ride or a park, it was always just a little bit disappointing.
Yes, I will. Yeah, Toy Story. I went to Toy Story Land like the week it opened.
Yeah.
Okay. That was okay. We went on the Slinky Dog roller coaster while I was there recently, and it's all right. It's a good roller coaster. But
it's just that like the actors haven't acclimated yet, you know?
Right. No, I get you. I will say though, the one experience I had that defied that was Pandora.
Okay.
Because I mean, the effect that Pandora had on me was that I didn't care about Avatar. I walked away like loving Avatar.
I know. We did a whole episode about that.
Yeah, I know. And But I really would I was actually thinking when I was there, I would love to go to this with you because everywhere while I'm in there, I'm like, this feels like I'm in a James Cameron world.
Yeah.
And like the detail level, it feels like James Cameron. And the only other time that I've ever experienced that, just like you've experienced that, is hanging out in the queue for T2 3D.
Right.
Yeah. Which is now also gone.
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
yeah, I know, because really that's the only Terminator sequel we need. And I missed that, and I love that, and it's a similar feeling. I finally found, by the way, at Flight of Passage, when you're leaving the ride, there's a section of wall that has James Cameron's handprint on it with his initials, like he signed the ride.
Oh, cool.
And I found that finally, and that was cool. It's like him, the ride engineer, and someone else. They all have their handprints, because there's like a whole thing with like handprints in the caves and stuff. And there's because right before you get on the ride in the cave, you're going through like a Navi cave that then leads into an RDA facility, and you have like it's a 4-finger Navi handprint, which means it's an avatar with a red human handprint inside it to sort of indicate that it's like Jake or something.
Okay.
And then they have these handprints in the exit with one says JC and it's James Cameron's signature for the ride, which is cool. But yes, you should go, and it would be awesome. And I want to hear more about why you want to go and why you're thinking about James Cameron.
I think I don't know. I was thinking about how I don't own a whole lot of physical media. I mean, I actually do. I own a lot of DVDs, but they're all from a time when I was collecting DVDs. So it's like everything I loved when I was 23 years old.
Right.
But
like your Boondock Saints.
Yeah. I have this Steelbook edition.
Of course you do.
Yeah, and plus like a lot of classic movies, a lot of movies I've watched on TCM. Like I have a lot of Clark Gable films that I don't watch. I don't know. But I was thinking about movies that I don't own. I've never owned Aliens.
Really?
Or any of the Terminator movies. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And I was just thinking about Aliens and Terminator, and the new Terminator movie is coming out soon. I don't know, just kind of just on my mind, and I'm just kind of thinking about like, wow, I really love Aliens, and I really love Terminator 2, and I don't know, I kind of want to see like Terminator Dark Fate just out of just out of my own interest in James Cameron.
Yeah,
because he's back as a producer, which I don't know, that doesn't really mean that much,
but I understand. So, I understand that Battle Angel Alita is a way better movie than it deserved to be because he produced it.
I really wanted to see that movie in theaters, but it left pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've actually heard it's like a lot of people really love it despite its flaws.
Mm-hmm. And
people who are even like they'll even admit like, yeah, it's very flawed, but I love it. It's crazy.
Well, as you're talking about this, there's also another thing we could talk about is the fact that they're bringing Avengers Endgame back into theaters just so they can take down Avatar.
Oh gosh, I heard about that.
Yeah,
they're doing it to take down Avatar. Oh, well, for their box office. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because they're like $45 million shy of being like the highest grossing movie of all time, which is Avatar.
And again, I hear they're doing with new footage. How much longer can that movie be?
Well, apparently it's going to be after the credits. It's going to be, what is it? Like a new scene, like a behind the scenes thing and a couple surprises is what Kevin Feige said.
It's probably just going to be a bunch of like Spider-Man trailers or whatever.
I'm willing to bet that there will be a tease involving Natasha. Because there's been a lot of news that I've seen lately about the Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet there's some kind of a tease about Natasha. But the thing is like, I don't know. It's such a crass money grab, which I know that all of this stuff is just a crass money grab because that's why they make this stuff to begin with.
Yeah.
But it just feels like, I don't know. It's when this to me starts getting into like where it becomes sports adjacent.
Yeah. Oh,
we gotta win. We gotta win.
It's even the fan base that when they become so obsessed with like box office numbers and stuff, it feels like it reminds me of like sports fans who like think they know how like general managers do whatever this they do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, it all feeds into my theory. It all feeds into my theory that nerds are the new jocks.
Yeah. It's approaching their level, at least, Like,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so, are you going to see it?
I mean, I'm tempted to just because Kana hasn't seen it.
Okay.
And walking around Disney and seeing all the t-shirts that said I love you 3000 and not being able to like comment on that and talk to her about that was sort of like she really like Kana has yet to experience a delight that is Fat Thor. She has, or I should say, sorry, Lebowski Thor. Thorbowski.
I've heard Party Thor.
Party Thor. Okay, we'll work on that. Yeah. She's not experienced the joy of just Paul Rudd and everything he's doing in that movie, or just Thanos and kind of how in retrospect they really wasted him in that movie. And which, by the way, Avengers Endgame's a movie that the more time that has passed, I realize I don't know that I think it's that good a movie.
It's pretty much how I feel about like all of the Avengers films, to be honest. We've talked about that.
Yep.
I think the only one I think the only one that I'm sort of coming back around on is the very first one.
Yeah, what made me realize that was seeing Godzilla King of the Monsters. Because reading the criticisms of that movie and then watching it, I'm realizing the criticisms you're levying against this movie are almost identical to the criticisms that Marvel naysayers levy at the Marvel movies, and people are like, "Oh no, you're just not watching it right, or you're not blah blah blah." And I'm realizing that I think a lot of people's opinions about it are rooted more in sort of the pop culture saturation of Marvel characters and the tangential familiarity that we all have with them, that allows us to forgive a lot of bigger flaws that these movies have. I will say the one thing in Avengers Endgame that really stood out to me, that really makes me kind of roll my eyes, is things like the shot with all the female characters.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't fit with the geography of the fight scene. And I even like in the theater, I remember watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, they just threw this in there to like score social, like social, like woke points. Like that's, And at the same time, great. I'm glad that little girls in the movie theater get to watch and see like all, like just to have a shot of all the female characters that they can sort of look up to. Like, that's great that they have that. That image will stick in their minds forever. But from a storytelling standpoint, it just wrenched right in there.
Right. I just like, I actually agree with the criticism towards that small scene.
Right.
But I'm also like just kind of afraid to voice my opinion on it because I know it's like, it's not really about me.
Right.
It's not really for me. But it's, it wasn't a movie I watched. So I kind of will have opinions about it, but I don't know. I've seen criticism against it. And I've seen women say that was like one of the best parts of the movie. And so I don't really.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's, I said it as a standalone image, it is a triumphant thing.
Yeah.
Like if you were to put that photo in a piece of marketing for the movie, like that.
I think we could all just agree that, you know what? It's nice.
It's nice.
It's nice.
It does not work narratively, but it's nice.
It's nice. You can say it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want to see it again. I only saw it the one time, but I don't know that I'm going to go in theater. It's partly because of my love for Avatar. I kind of want Avatar to, if I'm going to get into that competitive streak, I kind of want Avatar to win just because so many people hate on that movie. And I just love having the reminder to be like, it's the highest grossing movie of all time. Like you hate on it.
You have to say it with your eyes closed.
Yeah. Right.
It is the highest grossing movie of all time.
It is the highest grossing movie of all time.
Well, I mean, are you ready, Chuck, for the age of Avatar?
Bro, you know it.
That's approaching us. It's just going to be Star Wars and Avatar for the next 10 years.
I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't want to like come revisit this podcast like 3 years later and be like, man, that was really embarrassing that I said that with such like authority. I have a feeling the potential is there for the Avatar sequels to be massive.
Yeah.
Because, and it's something that we talked about when we had the episode, we talked about Avatar with Matt, and it's something that Matt said, which is that this first movie, the first Avatar movie, did its whole thing was setting up the world, and that James Cameron spent all this time building the world and the universe of it, that he almost felt like, oh, I've got to stick a story. We'll just use a generic story that pretty much can appeal to a whole ton of people to be able to introduce them to this incredibly immersive cinematic world. What I'm excited about the sequels is now, all right, we know the world, we know the rules of the world, we know what's going on in the world. Now let's tell a story. Let's now that we've got the introductions out of the way about the world, let's tell a story using the world. And like I said, I think it has the potential. If we've learned anything, don't sleep on Cameron, because don't underestimate it. Every time everybody underestimates him, he surprises us.
Yeah.
But that being said, he's also due for failure. So,
well, you know what? I think even if like this next Avatar movie sucks, I don't think Disney will pull the plug on it at all. Like they're gonna let him do whatever he wants.
And I hope they just leave him alone.
I think they will.
It's because I mean he's got a great track record, right? I mean,
yeah.
What's before Avengers Endgame? What was the second largest movie of all time? Titanic. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's he's another one that, you know, we talked about Spielberg a little bit at the beginning of this episode. Cameron, he's to me, Cameron's a little bit of a, he's sort of like oh, come on, Brody's name.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, Roy Scheider.
Scheider. He's again like that Scheider conversation is, you know, when people think of like the great directors, you know, they think of like Scorsese and they think of Spielberg and they think of, you know, those kinds of people. But Cameron's up there. I mean, obviously in terms of box office numbers, but you know, box office numbers are not just enough for artistic merit or whatever. And the guy has made some of the most inventive science fiction of our generation. I mean, he completely reinvented the action film.
Right.
And I think his finest movie is The Abyss.
That's a movie we need to talk about. I haven't watched that in a while. Yeah,
that's a movie Kane has never seen, and I really want to introduce her to it, but it's never been released on anything but DVD.
Yeah, I know. That and True Lies.
Yeah, I've never seen True Lies.
It's pretty good. But I used to love it when I was a kid. I loved it more when I was a kid. I watched it now. I was like, yeah, it's pretty good.
But yeah, I'm
fascinated with him because of his background. His whole background is like just he's an engineer,
and
he talked about the first time he ever like had a camera. He took it apart and put it back together again. You know, like that's who James Cameron is, and like that's why if you watch Terminator or Aliens, there's almost this sort of like, I don't want to say fetishistic because that's kind of cynical. It's like just sort of like a fascination with technology. There's like with his camera, like the way people like sort of criticize the male gaze,
right?
Women, he's directed that at like technology.
Oh yeah.
You know? Even just like guns, like in the Terminator movies. Like I don't think anyone when I say shot, I mean like photographed. I don't think anyone has photographed a gun the way James Cameron has photographed guns in like Terminator 2.
Which is fascinating because Cameron hates them.
Yeah.
Like he's a very liberal guy, very pro gun control, anti-military guy. But man, does he fetishize military hardware.
But I think he just looks at it as hardware. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's how his mind works. He's very technological. He's like a walking manual.
Yeah.
And like that's so that he sort of found a way to approach story in that fashion. Like he knows where all the parts go in a story.
Right.
Right. And he's like perfected it. So it's interesting. I'm fascinated by his process as both a writer and a director, and like the things that he's fascinated with, like technology and nature sort of clashing together. And I think what's really interesting about the Terminator, I don't think the Terminator would have been as good or as successful if it wasn't for the love story.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the two main characters actually bone in the movie, I think lends to that too.
I don't know.
That's just me though. Like I think it is. I think it kind of lends to success. I think if that element wasn't in there, it would have just been like a schlocky, movie with this Austrian bodybuilder that still watching VHS because it never came out on DVD.
Yeah, I mean, Terminator. Yeah, it's a slasher film.
Yeah,
with a robot. I mean, and it's a sci-fi slasher film,
which
we don't really have those, right? I mean, like it's about the only.
There's a movie that came out a few years ago called The Guest, and it was directed by the guy who made You're Next. His name's Adam Wingard. He's actually working on the next. He's working on King Kong versus Godzilla.
Okay.
But he made a movie called The Guest, and he said the inspiration behind it was he wanted to make something that was a mix between Terminator and Halloween. And I think he actually kind of accomplished that. Like it's like a slasher movie, but like the main character is like this sort of brainwashed, highly trained, like just good with this genius tactician who's just like taking fools out. Innocent people out, like high school kids and stuff. Like it is like Halloween meets Terminator. You should check it out. I think you'd be interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Terminator. I love Terminator 2.
Yeah, I do.
And of course, with Terminator 2, what makes Terminator 2 work is that it's a family.
Yeah,
and that it is, and it builds on thematically, right? You mentioned the first movie is a love story. And you see the quite literal consummation of that love story.
Yeah.
And then the sequel, which, good sequel takes things to the next level. Well, this is the next level. The next level is you have a family. And it's about that family relationship that, the affirmation of family.
Yeah. And also, the Terminator's sacrifice, learning to value human life.
Right.
Just, I mean, like for a guy who's so technically minded, he's like able to really bare his soul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and you think of Aliens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what a powerful movie that demonstrates something that we still don't see in cinema all that much, which is the raw strength of a mother.
That I love watching Aliens within the context of I don't think the director's cut is that good, but within the context of like knowing like what was taken away from Ripley in terms of her daughter. Just watching the part where she's like destroying all the eggs and then like having that context in your brain, it's like, whoa, like she is taking it out on this friggin' alien right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You robbed me of like,
it's not just like a survival moment. It's a cathartic moment. Like where she's just like, she's not trying to like get away from the alien. She's not trying to protect nukes. At this point, she's just like, I'm just gonna cap all you fools. Like just blows it up.
Well, and it has that moment of it's not going to happen to me again, and I'm not going to let it happen to anyone else again either.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, the classic line from the movie, "Get away from her, you bitch." It's Kana gave birth to Ford at home, and so that was my first experience of watching like what a woman goes through in delivering a child, like firsthand. And it's raw. Like it's weird to say this because in a lot of our culture, we tend to, when we think of something feminine, we think of very soft and floral. But it was watching my wife make animal noises, giving birth to this child. It was primal, and it was primal female. It was the most feminine I've ever seen my wife. And it was in that, and it was strength that made her very feminine in that moment. And so it transformed really transformed my feelings on the term feminine. And it was kind of one of those things, like even while she was doing it, I think I had in the back of my mind these images of Ripley in Aliens, that moment of that mama bear, protecting her children, and all of that. I just, Cameron captures that, and it's a really remarkable thing, and it, that he could capture that. And Yeah, and you talk about his technical stuff. I read a comment a couple years back or a year or so back about someone was talking about someone made something I read made a passing joke about a moon of Pandora, and I got really smug in there and said, well, no, Pandora itself is a moon, so it doesn't have a moon, and because it orbits a gas giant, and somebody like replied to that. I was like, oh, I totally forgot about the orbits gas giant. Why is that? Like, wouldn't you think that blah blah? All this kind of conversation about gas giants and planet. Would a planet or would a moon orbiting a gas giant be able to support life and all this stuff? And this other guy commented, who clearly is like a really hardcore Cameron fan and who had read a lot of stuff. And he said, the reason that Cameron did that is because at the time, as we were learning stuff about the Alpha Centauri system, that what we learned about the Alpha Centauri system was that the most likely, most plausible type of moon, like most type of like planet to contain life, would have been a moon orbiting a gas giant, because it would have reflected the starlight of this certain type of size star that would have been enough to like give enough radiation to inspire life, like to cause things to grow. Like this really deep dive science on how that would work. And he says, and the reason I say this is because Cameron is obsessed with this stuff and is kind of to the level of insane to make it plausible and make sure that it works. And that's kind of why he did this. It wasn't just an artistic statement of, oh, it'd look cool to have a gas giant in the sky. It was also rooted in some like deep dive science for him. Just crazy.
Okay.
I mean, the man is a little nuts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's got nothing but time, you know? He's working on his movies. That's it.
Movies in a submarine. That's what he does.
We should watch his submarine movies and talk about that. That'd be funny, right?
Well, I've heard the story that he agreed to make Titanic in order to fund his expedition to the actual Titanic. Like that's the only reason he did it.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Which I love the idea that the biggest movie of all time for a period there was just made like the way Adam Sandler makes movies, so he can go on vacation with his friends. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll do this thing.
Yeah. That's cool. Wow. Yeah. So James Cameron, brilliant filmmaker. Too bad he never got to work with Roy Scheider.
You know,
that would have been good. That would have been real good.
Could you? Oh man, could you imagine if Cameron had made a Jaws movie?
I think. Could you imagine? Like he was supposed to make Jurassic Park.
Cameron was.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
When they were optioning the book rights, the movie rights for the book, he was in on the bidding war for the rights.
Dude.
He was competing against Spielberg and like these other production companies.
Dude, Michael Crichton and James Cameron together would have been like peanut butter and chocolate. I mean, because like you've read Jurassic Park, the novel, right?
Oh yeah.
Like what people don't seem to realize about the book versus the movie is that the book is really about the mathematical theories of chaos theory. Like the book, like each chapter opens with like fractal images, and it really is about that technical, you know, and a lot of the science and technology pieces that are going on with the biotech and unpredictability and all of that. So somebody with James Cameron's obsession with that sort of stuff, man.
I mean, it's more Jurassic Park the novel is more comparable to like Alien and Aliens than anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole sequence in the book where they're going through air ducts shooting grenade launchers at raptors in the book. Yeah. Yeah, the only thing is, though, what Spielberg brought to the table, and I wonder if Cameron would have been as good at it, is Spielberg brought the awe of seeing dinosaurs walking around for the first time. And considering that Cameron's much more interested in, like, the drop ship coming out of the Sulaco than he is about, like,
the fascination wouldn't have been there. The wonder wouldn't have been there. Yeah,
well, I mean, because one of the criticisms that people have levied at Avatar is the first time you see the Hallelujah Mountains, you see it from the perspective of people inside of a helicopter. Right. You don't really, he focused so much on the human perspective of seeing it but it's like a third person. You're not seeing it through the eyes of the person flying it or the person seeing it for the first time. You're seeing it as a passenger with other people. And so you don't get this awe of seeing these things for the first time. It's more sort of hinted at, and you're sort of told this is beautiful rather than shown that it's beautiful. Right. And I would think that because of that, Cameron might not have been as good of.
I mean, I think the reason why we love Jurassic Park is not so much like the thrill aspect of it. I mean, that part's fun and good. Yeah. And great. But like we saw dinosaurs for the first time. Like that was the whole point. Like that was like that's why we love it so much.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that like my mom even goes to is that when we saw, she said, there's no way to recreate the first time you see the Brachiosaurus.
Oh yeah.
And even now, like watching that movie, I get chills.
It's like when they first reveal like King Kong.
Yeah.
Back in the 30s, like people are like, what?
Yeah. And I would just since you brought up a giant monster, getting back to that is Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I've seen theaters twice now. And I will say the one thing about that movie is that they don't do nearly as much long shots to just sort of break your brain over the sheer like magnitude of these creatures like you do in the 2014 Godzilla movie, where that first time you see Godzilla in Honolulu is like you just get the tease and you're like, this thing is huge. And then when you finally get to San Diego and you see that shot where they're doing the halo jump to the clouds and you see Godzilla fighting the Muto and you realize just how big these things are, it's just such a like majestic moment that there are a couple of hints at it in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I know you haven't seen it, but when Rodan shows up, Rodan's probably the most impressive sequence in the whole movie because they really do showcase this enormous pterodactyl coming out of a volcano and what that's like. And then he has an encounter with Ghidorah and you get a sense of how big they are. And there's some cool stuff there.
Wait, it's a pterodactyl that comes out of the volcano?
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody ripped off Power Rangers.
Which
because every time Kimberly summoned the pterodactyl, it came out of a volcano.
Yeah, and I will point out that Rodan came out in 1956, and Rodan first comes out of a volcano in his movie in 1956. So I think someone originally ripped off Godzilla.
Oh, checkmate. Check and mate.
Got
schooled.
Oh, yeah. Bro, we've never ever on this show got into the near depths of obsession that I have with the big G.
I can't. It's the abyss. I can't touch it. Like I can't even get close to it. Like I've seen the first Godzilla movie, and you showed me Gamera.
Gamera's awesome,
and that's it.
The '90s Gamera is awesome.
Gamera is cool. I did like Gamera. Yeah. I seen the '98 Godzilla.
Did you watch the whole trilogy of Gamera with me, or did you just watch the first one?
You watched 2 movies.
So Gamera, and then you watched one with Legion, which was the big silver thing.
I think so.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Gamera 3, the third in that trilogy, is one of the most bleak. It's such a bleak movie because the guy who directed those movies is a Malthusian. So he believes that like the human population should like mostly be gone for the sake of the created world, and the movie ends on that note. Basically, it ends with an injured Gamera.
This all just makes me wish like Trey Parker and Matt Stone had made their kaiju movie.
Right, they were going to make one. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like I wish that like this all like cause I'm fascinated by this entire genre that you're so obsessed with. But I feel like there needs to be a Shaun of the Dead of it. Like that's the best way I can express how much time I'm in it.
I would say the closest thing that we have to a Shaun of the Dead type movie with the kaiju genre is Colossal.
Oh, is that the one with the
with Anne Hathaway?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, I saw that. That was actually really good. That's probably true. There's another one called, it was a Big Boy Japan or something.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that.
It was very dry. Not that fun, but like,
I mean, I will say so kaiju cinema. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Let's wrap.
Yeah, the challenge with it is 2 things. You go to the movies to see the big monsters, but you need the human element in order. You can't just watching a movie with big monsters is you need some kind of scale. You need an emotional connection and all of that.
Do you though? Do you? Can we just have 2 hours of monsters fighting? Why not? It's basically like a silent movie.
Yeah, I think if you, I think I agree with you on that. That
you're alienating your audience, but yeah.
Well, so so probably the most effective kaiju, one of the most effective scenes in recent kaiju. By the way, for those who know, kaiju is the Japanese word for giant monster, or well, for monster. Daikaiju is giant monster in Japanese. is I think one of the more effective scenes that sort of plays into the empathy that we sort of generally have is because what the most effective things in all these movies, I think, for me, is when you see not just individual human connections with it, but sort of mass human connections in it. Like one of the most like in Gamera 2, Gamera versus Legion, from 1995 or 6. Is the scenes depicting them evacuating people with this encroaching thing happening, and just that, you know, the original Godzilla, in the Japanese version of the original Godzilla, has moments where, like, after Godzilla has come through Tokyo, they're running Geiger counters over kids, and the Geiger counters are spiking because Godzilla exudes radiation, and so it, you know, so that you know, these are characters that you don't have names, you don't have an arc, you just see what they're, you know, how they've been impacted by this. And I think that's consistently one of the more poignant things in a kaiju film. In Colossal, you have it, but it sort of happens off camera. Because if you remember the movie, it's when Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis are in this playground starting at 8 a.m. every day. 2 kaiju manifest in Seoul, Korea. Yeah, right. And there's a moment where, if you've not seen it, spoiler alert, but Jason Sudeikis sees this as like a power trip to be able to manifest a giant robot in Seoul. And so there's a moment where Anne Hathaway is trying to stop him from just being violent, because she's starting to realize there's a human cost to everything she does, because she finds out that she gets drunk and goes in there and like passes out. When she passes out, she falls into a building and it kills a bunch of people. And so Jason Sudeikis manages to, like, I think he punches her, right? Because it's a very abusive scene. Or he kind of like punches her or pushes her on the ground or something. And then you just see his feet stomping in the playground.
Right.
And it's playing the sounds of what's happening in Korea. And it's super heavy and tragic. I mentioned that because I think if you're going to go the route of having a movie giant monsters fighting, I think you could do it, but you have to have sort of generic human impact,
right?
Because you can. But I think I think we sell ourselves short, because a lot of times in our storytelling we think we have to empathize with individuals, forgetting that we sometimes do empathize with groups. And if we were just to have groups, I mean, maybe it doesn't tell a story, I don't know, but it would be an interesting thing to watch.
Colossal is a great movie.
It is a really great movie.
It sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Colossal with Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah, it was a little indie film that deal, like, I initially, and the marketing makes it seem like it's a comedy.
Yeah,
it's not really a comedy.
Not really. It gets real.
It does. It gets, yeah. Be prepared that if you are triggered by domestic violence,
yeah,
be aware that it's a movie that deals quite heavily with emotional abuse and even some physical abuse, but mostly emotional abuse.
Jason Sudeikis is also just like a great a-hole. Like,
dude,
he sells that role of like just a horribly abusive person.
He's such a good actor. We forget about Jason Sudeikis as what a good actor he is. He, because he's been this goofball in SNL for years, and Colossal, his role in Colossal was so effective that when I saw him on Last Man on Earth, I was a little suspicious of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Father Chuck, for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to be here.
And thank you, listeners, for always listening. Join us again next week, and have a wonderful week.
Yep.
Good journey.
Good journey.